Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuki. Coming up, a concerted effort to remove Tonga's Chief Justice is ongoing also.
But when Kava goes in, they are getting a lot of money.
How PNG's Kava market is creating vital jobs, and later on,
I would encourage any philanthropists that want to support the Pacific Islands, do something like that rather than just giving money.
Pacific ministers take a power trip for a summit in Aotearoa. The Papua New Guinea Parliament is considering legislation that would ensure a grace period after an unsuccessful vote of no confidence. There are concerns in PNG at the distracting impact of endless votes of no confidence, and the James Marape government wants to do something about it. Mr. Marape easily withstood a vote of no confidence last week, garnering 75 to 32, while he has also been assailed by the threat of such votes since February, when an 18-month grace period following the 2022 election ended. He wants to ensure that in future a failed vote would stymie further attempts. Don Wiseman spoke with PNG political scientist and PhD students at the Australian National University, Michael Kabuni.
We had yet another vote of no confidence last week. It was a very brief affair, it seems. What happens next?
Well, there are different scenarios that may play out. The first one is straight after the unsuccessful vote of no confidence, the opposition had a press conference and they indicated that this was round one. There will be round two. That's basically the indication that there will be a further vote of no confidence attempt, possibly in the November sitting, because Parliament was adjourned to November. So, yeah, the opposition have made their intentions clear that there will be a vote of no confidence. Now, the other thing that the opposition said they would think about is whether to take the Speaker of Parliament to court and invoke provisions of the Constitution that would basically discipline the Speaker of Parliament, potentially, jail term as well. And that's because of different interpretations on whether there should be a debate before a vote of no confidence vote was taken. The Speaker thinks they should have just, as he did, which is just go straight into the vote. The opposition wanted a debate before a vote is taken. So they were not given that opportunity. So that's second, but that wouldn't reverse the result of the vote of no confidence. It's a challenge on the conduct of the Speaker.
And it's not likely to succeed, is it?
We really don't know. There are rulings in the Supreme Court rulings in various cases before where they said the Speaker of Parliament or its employees, like the clerk and those who constitute the committee, if they violate or frustrate a constitutional process, they can be prosecuted. So it comes down to the question of whether that exol ruling by the Speaker was violating a constitutional right of the members of Parliament to conduct a debate. If it's a violation of a constitutional right, then it becomes an issue. But the recent court rulings is that the proceedings of the Parliament as it pertains to vote of no confidence is outside of the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And therefore they wouldn't even hear the case. So if they take that position, then this case would not go anywhere. But I think the next big thing is there is a proposed amendment to the Constitution that's before the Parliament. It will go through various readings, but the end goal is to add another 18 months grace period after an unsuccessful vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister. So it will not apply to this vote of no confidence that was unsuccessful, but if the opposition move another vote of no confidence in November and they are unsuccessful, and if this amendment takes place before that vote of no confidence, then what that would mean is after an unsuccessful vote of no confidence, there is an automatic 18 months grace period. And if that happens, let's say in 2024, 18 months takes you right into 2026, basically into election eve. So if this constitutional amendment is successful, then Marape is secure. There's going to be no vote of no confidence, not possible.
Meanwhile, of course, potentially 4 sessions this year, all of them effectively, given over largely to concerns about a vote of no confidence. And this at a time when the country is facing so many issues that are largely being ignored. There must be a lot of concern among the general populace about the way in which MPs are behaving.
Yes, I mean, the limited parliament sittings, there is a prescribed number of days that the parliament should meet. They run the risk of not meeting the constitutionally mandated minimum number of sitting. I think it's 63. So that's the first one. But the real concern is, as you said, there are so many issues that the country needs to deal and debate. The Prime Minister accused the opposition for moving so many votes of no confidence attempts that it's diverting Parliament from and the government from executing the policies and plans. But this could have been settled in the first vote of no confidence attempt straight after the grace period expired in February. But the government-dominated Parliamentary Business Committee and the Speaker basically frustrated the whole process, and that's why you had 6 attempts. But yeah, to his point, is partly true that government is almost crippled from, especially if the government is in session, there is always the threat of vote of no confidence. And the government has been camping out in the last attempts. They were camping out in an island resort, not operating in Waigani. So they were basically away from the central agencies, government agencies. So it affects the performance of the executive government in implementing policies, but it also affects the parliaments. The parliament should be debating, serious national issues, but it's been dominated by vote of no confidence concerns since February this year.
Now, the opposition were talking in these very noble terms about keeping the government honest and concerns about corruption and so on, and mismanagement. But is that what motivated the vote of no confidence?
The evidence does not support the opposition's claims, mostly because half the opposition members were members of the current regime, Marape's cabinet, and they voted on almost every legislation that the government put forward in the last 5 years. They've voted and supported the budget last year. So if you have questions around debt, that's basically coming out from budget. Whatever the borrowing debt to GDP ratio is, they voted for that. And the government is borrowing within the debt to GDP ratio that these members of parliament have passed in the November budget in 2023. So it's difficult to know whether these opposition MPs are genuine in their claims because they've supported every one of these budgets and policies and legislations that were put forward. Apart from a few exceptions, like let's say Alan Baird, who moved in February of 2024 and who has been critical of the government, even though he was within the government caucus and supporting government in some of the policies. He voted against some. He was open about some of the decisions that the government were making. Apart from Alan Baird, there is almost no current opposition member who used to be with the government that was actually critical of the government, and they were not raising the issues that they are raising now in the opposition. And I mean, that's understandable because they were with the government, but they didn't move when these budgets were passed and these policy proposals were put forward. So I think majority of Papua New Guineans are not convinced with the opposition, but they would like to see Marape replaced because there is no question about the law and order issue in Papua New Guinea getting worse. Service delivery, every indicator is regressing. The budget is been blown out of proportion. So they would like to see Marape replaced. At least a good number of Papua New Guineans would like to see Marape replaced. But, it's come to a point where, replace Marape at all costs and doesn't matter who replaces Marape. That seems to be the strategy of the opposition. But that was the same strategy in 2019 when they said replace O'Neill at all cost, and they got Marape. And now they're saying, change Marape at all cost, even if the nominee is someone who voted for every proposal that Marape put forward and defended Marape on the floor of parliament.
Yeah.
So they're repeating the same problem.
A petition trying to oust the Chief Justice from his post because he is gay is still circulating around Tonga. Welshman Malcolm Bishop took on the role this month. Tonga's law criminalises acts of sodomy. Our Tongan correspondent Galafi Moala told Caleb Fotheringham a few thousand people are expected to sign the petition. He says there will be a march to present the petition to the palace office.
The petition is going around the general public, and the reaction that's coming is gone beyond the lawyers questioning the issue based on legal grounds, because if you know that sodomy or openly gay lifestyle is a criminal offense in Tongan, according to Tongan law. And so that's what is the basis for the questioning of this appointment by the lawyers. But then, of course, it has gone into the public now, and much discussion, much talk in the public, not so much because of legal ground, the fact that Tonga is very strongly church-based Christian country, and so the reaction from the public is more on what they perceive as a moral ground. It's something unacceptable in Tongan society. The issue is the fact that the Chief Justice is openly a gay man. It's not really the issue in Tonga, that here's a man who has chosen that lifestyle, because obviously this has been going on in Tonga, this lifestyle, for quite some time, and it's gotten to be accepted in Tongan society as a choice, a lifestyle choice. But the fact that the authorities have gone ahead to take somebody practicing that lifestyle and appoint as the head of our judiciary system or as a Lord Chief Justice, that is the big issue here. And so that's where the opposition, that's where the reaction is. The other thing, Caleb, to think about is a very valid question has come up in quite a number of public discussions. Here we are in Tonga, a number of very qualified judges in Tonga to occupy the position. No, they didn't pick one from there.
Yes, I'm keen to get into that in a second, because I think that's really interesting that this Chief Justice is from Wales, and I understand that in the Pacific it's actually quite common to get Chief Justices who don't really have any cultural background in the countries that they're serving. But before we do, what you were saying before, are you saying that despite the laws, if these laws of sodomy didn't exist, there would still be large concern that this man was appointed the Chief Justice role just because he is a gay man?
Oh, definitely, because it goes against the face of Tongan social and moral values. Maybe in another country it'd be different. Like in New Zealand, it's okay. A man marries another man, or a woman marries another woman. That's okay, and it's accepted in Australia. Even in the churches, to have a man who is a minister, a gay person, be appointed into even the position of being in a church minister. But no, Tonga is different. So this whole appointment goes, or should I say, spits at the very face of Tongan social, moral values. And that's a big thing. The legal aspect is another thing, another issue altogether. But it's the moral, social issue that really makes up Tongan society. That's a big one.
Has Tonga in the past had Chief Justices from Europe and from places that have really no major connection to Tonga? Has that happened in the past?
Yes, they've had one or two, but most of the Chief Justices in the past have been either from New Zealand or from Australia, who are Pacific nations and closer to Tonga. But now and then there'll be somebody that will come out of, in this case, of the United Kingdom and of Wales. Of course, locally, the talk is that the person who heads up our judiciary panel here in Tonga right now, and who is a very close advisor to the King, is a Scotsman who used to be a judge, a Supreme Court judge in Tonga. He's from Scotland. So the talk, of course, and we cannot really verify here, but the blame in the talk is that it is his fault. He's the one that really must have known this man from before and offered him a job and goes to the king and advised the king to select this man without giving the king the full details about his lifestyle and what this man is all about.
Is the concern with having this man coming from Wales that he doesn't understand the cultural background or the cultural nuances of Tonga and that could affect his job as Chief Justice? Is that the general concern?
You ask a very good question. The reason why traditionally Supreme Court judges and especially the Lord Chief Justice have been appointed as foreigners is they wanted somebody to come from the outside who in no way would subjected to the local mores and the traditions of Tonga, somebody who has no cousin, so to speak, and they felt that there was somebody that will come in and would be able to execute justice better than a Tongan judge who may be providing judgment for somebody from his own village or somebody who is a relative or somebody that they know well. And so that has been the main reason why Tonga has in the past appointed judges from outside. So the issue of not knowing the cultural things in Tonga, that's not an issue at all. As long as he knows Tongan laws and sticks to it, they feel that a foreign judge will provide better judgment on issues of justice than, say, a local judge. But of course, it has changed. In the last 3 to 4 years, there are a couple of local Supreme Court judges appointed. But that's a change from the tradition of the past.
A PNG Kava supplier is lobbying for Fiji's government to change its Kava import laws. Ocean Kava Limited Managing Director Bilaki Enape Waizepa spoke to Lydia Lewis on the sidelines of the Pacific Islands Forum Leader Summit in Tonga following the launch of the Kava strategy, which aims to protect Kava as a property of the Pacific. Mr. Waizepa says at the moment only roots can be sent to Fiji from PNG, not powdered Kava. Lydia started off by asking about PNG's Kava journey.
Kava is a Pacific drink signifying some of their cultural significance, especially Vanuatu, Tonga and Fiji. But PNG just come into the picture just recently, some 3-4 years ago. PNG Kava, most of it is not really our cultural drink, but there's only one province in Papua New Guinea called Medang, where that group of people in Medang, they use it for their cultural whatever there. So, and then we identified that this is the noble Kava that is they growing there. So we told them, no, you can go into commercial cropping. So from there we encourage them, train them, and now they are really into maize farming. Yeah.
How many years have they been doing that for now?
This is the 4th year, and then next year would be the 5th year. They really increased. So on average, like we exporting, especially my company and the Ocean Kava is exporting like 40 tons annually.
So what's the revenue on that?
Fiji Kava, Tonga Kava, Vanuatu Kava has already into the picture and they play a major role. And PNG Kava is something new on the market. So people are just slowly testing and then getting to like the product.
What sets it apart?
The strong taste of Kava comes from a property that we call it Kava lactone. The higher the Kava lactone inside in the Kava roots, the stronger it is. Therefore, PNG Kava has the highest in whole of the Pacific.
Does it mean more people are interested in it because of the higher Kava lactone?
Yeah, that could be one. Because after Vanuatu, when PNG come into the picture, PNG Kava is more stronger. So it's also very suitable for pharmaceutical market, because the pharmaceutical market they're looking for the Kava lectern. We did some analysis with University of South Pacific and Coronavirus Research Center in Fiji, and it proves that it's all noble variety with the highest Kava lectern up to the highest was 17%.
And what is the Vanuatu Kava approximately?
Vanuatu approximately 12, 13, Fiji is around 10. PNG is from 14 to 17.
Which countries are your highest exporters at the moment?
My highest export is to Fiji. The thing is, I got a lot to supply, and Fiji biosecurity do allow us to supply only the roots, not in a powder form. So I supply a lot to Fiji.
Would you like that to change? Would you like some more education around, around that so that you can export in a different form?
Yes, I've been a couple of times. I've been trying to get in touch with the government just to help down on the downstream processing, so that we can downstream process into powder. I do have machines at home, which is I'm doing it, but the capacity is small because we have tons, and to make the tons into powder, we need proper machines. So and I would like to also, anyone who's out there wanting to buy or cover with high Kava lectern, I'm here to supply them in tons.
I know there have been some issues and concerns around producers in the United States and other countries starting to produce Kava. Do you have any issues around that?
One would say that this Kava is best. Another one would say this Kava is best. But then it goes down to the nitty-gritty of the Kava lecterns, the content of the Kava lecterns. And so far PNG have proven well that we have the highest Kava lectern. And the result speaks for itself.
How much does this give back to the community?
The province that we buy Kava from is Medang. So when you go to Medang, the farmers there are from the interior part of Medang, not from the town area or the developed area, no. Because the fertile soil is right inside. That is very, very suitable for Kava. So these are the unfortunate ones. These are the ones that, their chances of earning money is very limited. But when Kava goes in, they are getting a lot of money. And it's helping their families to, buy school fees for the children, buy their clothes. The Kava is really impacting the lives of those unfortunate ones who are right into the interior.
Pacific ministers from Samoa, Niue, Fiji and Tonga are returning home feeling energised after a power-packed 2-day conference at the Oceania Renewable Summit in Auckland. Grace Viva was there and has the story.
As small island developing states, we are very clear that phasing out fossil fuels isn't necessary for limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Fossil fuel energy should no longer have a future in the Pacific region. That was the consensus of the Pacific delegates at the summit that brought in big players from Australia and New Zealand's renewable electricity generation sector. In Samoa, the country has set a goal to have electricity grid powered by 70% renewable energy by 2031. Samoa's Minister of Natural Resources, Environment and Lands, Toi Sulusulu Cedric Schuster, says the country is on track with its target.
One of our biggest issues is grid stability. As we transition into renewable energy, solar panels can produce a lot of excess energy, and when we're unable to store that, it means that's lost. Just like when you have floods, there's a lot of river water that could be stored to generate energy that could be used at a later date.
As Niue gears up for its 50th celebration of self-governance, Finance Minister Crossley Tātui says the knowledge gained from the summit and the installation of the new power stations will strengthen the atoll's resilience.
We speak, this week we have expertise on the island trying to test trial our new power station that will provide assistance in terms of the preparation for the 50-year celebration. It's a new power station. We are satisfied that there's capacity to provide for any pressures for the celebration.
Fiji's Chair of Energy, Rokoseru Nambalarua, says ocean technology could be the Pacific's most valuable energy asset. He believes that the ocean surpasses solar and wind energy options.
And one thing that we have plenty of in the Pacific, we've got a lot of ocean. Particularly if we are able to generate power from ocean currents, we can achieve two things very quickly. One is to get power sources through ocean energy. And secondly, you can actually have desalination plant as part of that process. So you're achieving two things at the same time. And particularly when we're still so dependent on fossil fuel, we need to keep an eye on what's happening on the hydrogen fuel space.
New Zealand's National MP Stuart Smith encouraged the Pacific to take advantage of other resources within their country.
Unfortunately, there's all this other resource that could be taken advantage of, but it takes investment, I guess, and with all the diesel generators in place in the Pacific Islands, they can be converted to run on biomethane, and I think it's really important to try and to shift focus to that. And I would encourage any philanthropists that want to support the Pacific Islands, do something like that rather than just giving money to it, where you can actually help an island become more self-sufficient.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā sui fua.